Breaking tonight, Fox News confirming that President-elect Donald Trump has offered Dr. Ben Carson the top spot at Housing and Urban Development. Dr. Carson says he wants to take the holiday to think it over after earlier suggesting he wasn't interested in a cabinet position in the Trump administration. He's scheduled to join us on this broadcast tomorrow night. Maybe we'll force an answer out of him. Don't miss that. The news comes on the same day that Mr. Trump went face-to-face with the New York Times over how the paper is covering and has been covering the president-elect and his new administration. For more on that, we go to Fox News Media Buzz host Howie Kurtz. Hey, Howie.
Hey, Megan. Donald Trump constantly criticizes what he calls the failing New York Times and then threatened a lawsuit during the campaign. So it was something of a surprise when he agreed to a meeting today. Even more of a surprise when he canceled it, tweeting that the paper had tried to change the terms and conditions and continues to cover me inaccurately and with a nasty tone. The Times says it was Trump who tried to drop the on-the-record portion of the meeting, but within hours it was back on, with publisher Arthur Sulzberger Jr. sitting next to the president-elect at the Manhattan newsroom. And Trump, who had been keeping a low profile, made plenty of news. Trump said he had changed his mind on the use of waterboarding and other forms of torture, deciding it's not effective, after talking with retired General James Mattis, who he's seriously considering to run the Pentagon. Trump dug in against taking action to resolve potential conflicts of interest involving his global real estate empire, refusing to rule out meeting business partners in the White House. And he won't distance himself from his children, who will be running it. If we're up to some people, said Trump, I would never, ever see my daughter Ivanka again. And speaking of family, he said he might tap Ivanka's husband, Jared Kushner, a Jewish developer and campaign advisor with no experience in public office, as a special envoy to the Middle East. Trump saying he'd love to be the one who makes peace between Israel and the Palestinians. Trump even said he has an open mind on climate change, which he has called a concept invented by the Chinese to hurt American manufacturing. In this interview, he refused to repeat his earlier position on abandoning the global climate agreement reached last year in Paris. And Trump appeared to back off his threat to loosen the libel laws, telling the Times folks, I think you'll be happy. Bottom line here, these comments will probably be welcomed by the Washington establishment, even by some Democrats, but could be seen as a betrayal by Trump's conservative base. In fact, the conservative site Breitbart, which had been run by Trump advisor Steve Bannon, ripped Trump for a broken promise for saying he's decided against seeking a special prosecutor for Hillary Clinton. The newspaper billed today's session as Trump, quote, tempered some of his most extreme campaign promises. Or maybe he's just moderating his stances, as newly elected presidents sometimes do. Megan?
I can't keep up. Howie, thank you. Joining me now with more, Governor Mike Huckabee, former presidential candidate and Fox News contributor, and Julie Roginski, Democratic strategist and Fox News contributor. So we're no longer going to prosecute Hillary Clinton. We're reversing our position on the climate change agreement. We are no longer going to torture or waterboard, which he said at virtually all these campaign stops and in many debates, Governor. Just like, how many campaign promises is that before he's even been sworn in?
Oh, I don't know. You know, and sometimes I'm not sure whether Donald Trump is humoring the New York Times, who has never been polite to him, never been fair or balanced with him in any way. We'll see. I mean, I think Donald Trump is doing a lot of things right now to, give some good optics. And I think we'll wait till he takes the oath of office. But I do believe this, Megan, if he fundamentally changes the major positions that he campaigned on and the reason that, 60 million people went and voted for him, I think it'll be a real rocky start, because there are expectations.
You do?
I do, yeah, because, look, nobody at the New York Times wants or believes Donald Trump will be a good president. Nobody at the Washington Compost believes that either. But there are millions of Americans who tore their shirts for Donald Trump and went out there and got him elected. Yeah. If he were to make major changes in his positions,
during the course
it
of the
would be
campaign,
disaster.
And they never held it against him. They believe in the man, if not the mission. Julie, I want to ask you about Jared Kushner, who, is really sort of the, with respect to him, boy wonder, of the campaign. He's a business guy, Ivanka's husband, who really helped get Donald Trump elected as the president. And his business credentials are really impressive. However, Mr. Trump is making news today by saying that Jared Kushner could help make peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and pushing, according to NBC News, to get him a top secret clearance so that he can be privy to the presidential daily brief, despite not being an official member of the White House and the cabinet. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it betrays an incredible lack of seriousness and a commitment to what needs to be done with foreign policy. Look, what Jared Kushner is, I guess what his qualifications are in Donald Trump's mind is he's Jewish. He's been to Israel a bunch of times. Me too. I mean, there's a lot of us like that, but it doesn't mean that I'm qualified to be Dennis Ross or Henry Kissinger or George Mitchell or any of the people who are very serious diplomats who've tried to bring peace to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And to say that Jared Kushner, whose only qualification from what I can tell are that he married into the Trump family, is somebody that can take on this very onerous responsibility, which has ramifications not just for the Middle East, but really for our foreign policy across the world, outside the Middle East, in addition to the Middle East, is laughable. And so for anybody to believe that he has any qualifications short of his religion and potentially having traveled, as a lot of people have in Israel, is not a serious analysis of what needs to be done if somebody's really serious.
Well, what do you make of it, Governor? Because he's a smart man. He's very loyal to Mr. Trump. He helped get him elected. Is it more of a spokesperson type position where he would just be relaying the messages of the administration and familiarity with the issues is required, but being a true diplomat may not be? You tell me.
Well, look, I don't think anybody expects Jared Kushner or anybody else is going to go and resolve this, because if you really want to know, this goes back to Isaac and Ishmael. It doesn't have a start
there may be
50
limits
years
to
ago,
Jared's
70
gifts.
years ago. Well, look, and here's what I want to just be very clear about. There's going to be no peace in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict until at first the Palestinians get serious about it and they quit telling the school children that it's a good thing to murder Jews. This has been going on since the beginning. They had a chance in 1995 when Ehud Barak almost gave away 95% of Judea and Samaria, and Arafat rejected the whole thing.
It's a tall bar.
They don't want peace.
It's a tall bar. I got to ask you this quickly before I let you go, Julie. On the First Amendment and Trump's commitment to it, because he's obviously had not the most respectful relationship with the press. He said to the New York Times, I think you'll be happy with respect to his First Amendment commitment. You know, it's funny because Trump, when he wants to charm you, he can do it. But the problem is the press is going to hit him. They're going to hit him right between the eyes. And they're not going to be happy, and he's not going to be happy with them. It's just not the nature of media covering a president. Your thoughts?
Look, I mean, the media has to do their job with that fear or favor. And so if somebody says they're going to open loosen libel laws, as Donald Trump said throughout the campaign.
That's another one he just walked back.
Yeah, he just walked. Listen, he'll walk it forward again tomorrow. That's the problem. You don't know where he stands. You know, we can have daily, if not hourly, conversations about whiplash and what he says at any given time and any given issue. If he walked it back, I'm happy to hear it. If he consistently, for the next 4 years, decides that he's not going to pursue it, that's fantastic. But he cannot lash out at the New York Times, the Washington Post, Fox News, or anybody else when any of us say something he doesn't like. That's the reality of a free press.
It was interesting because he said, if you guys see something where you feel I'm wrong, I'd love to hear it. You can call me. Arthur Sulzberger Jr., you can call me. But, of course, this is not how it works. Like, they're going to call. He's going to blow them off. They're going to write pieces that he doesn't like. And I guarantee right here tonight that the New York Times will not be happy, and Donald Trump will not be happy. No one will be happy because media coverage of a president is usually not happy. I got to go.
Megyn,
go ahead.
One quick thing. We're talking about the credibility of Donald Trump. We need to be talking about the credibility of the New York Times, which doesn't have any.
We've had that discussion.
They don't have any.
Great to see you both.
None.
No one's happy. First of all, there's no happiness in media. And there's definitely no happiness in politics. And when you miss the two of them together, there's zero happiness. It's all about unhappiness and skeptical and cynical awfulness. Welcome to the Kelly File. So, coming up, Democratic Congressman Tim Ryan is now being accused of sexism for the crime of challenging Nancy Pelosi for her job as minority leader. He's here tonight to respond to that. Plus, the left, some of them, thought it was great when a Broadway cast publicly challenged VP-elect Mike Pence. But how did they react when Dr. Ben Carson spoke truth to power back at the National Prayer Breakfast when the president was Barack Obama? Mark Thiessen and Mac Bennett are next for our little walk down memory lane.